All right, hey everybody, this is Barney Kunze. I am the founder and creator of the Animal Wellness Summit, and today, or this morning, depending on when you're tuning in live and where you're tuning in live from, and when you potentially may be watching this broadcast. But I am here tonight in Canada, and we have a special guest, one of our first guests, also one of our presenters for the Animal Wellness Summit. We're really excited to hear more about Dr. Will Falconer. So welcome, Dr. Will.
Thanks, Barney. It's great to be.
Yeah. So tell me again, where are you at in the
I'm physically in Austin, Texas, but I've had a practice that really is kind of global. So as a homeopathic vet, I can consult on the telephone. I'm not taking new clients these days as I'm busy teaching many more people than a one-on-one client thing could do for me. But I've had a practice with patients just pretty much anywhere because it's just a phone call away.
Right. Yeah, which is pretty cool. So you can work pretty much anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to I have a couple questions for you, but also what I'd love to do is just share a little bit about a background about why we're on this call tonight. For a couple different reasons. So I was going to say for 3 reasons, but there's probably going to be more. And one is that we have we'll put this Animal Wellness Summit together, and we're really excited about it just because we're gathering some of the best minds from around the world on different topics that they're passionate about and experts in. And so we're going to get in more of that tonight about that with you. And Eva Cervais, a good friend of mine that I met at a marketing event, and she suggested that we reach out to you and see if we can get something to work. But then it didn't work for you. You're in busy teaching and educating and sharing your wealth of wisdom with everybody around the world. And somehow things aligned in a way that we're able to have you speak and present for the summit. So we're really excited about that. And the third part is that you have some amazing training that we want to be able to share with people. And I'd love for you to just kind of start to get into more of that as we kind of go through some of the questions. So I want to say thank you for, even though it's well in advance, several weeks, if not several months until we start the summit, because I don't know, have you ever been on an actual summit yourself, an online summit?
I haven't, other than probably some summits around learning more. I guess when I've gone to courses, it's been in person. I don't think I've been to an online summit. Oh, I have with the the truth about cancer. I think that was considered a summit.
Yeah. Now, to clarify, you participated, but have you presented in a summit before yet?
No, I've been a consumer.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Yep. So this is pretty cool because I just wanted to say that. I lost my screen. 1 second. Back. You can still hear me and see me and everything, right?
Oh, good.
Are you there, Dr. Will?
Yeah, I can hear you really well. I see you moving. It looks like I'm moving.
Okay.
So
yeah. Okay. It's just my end. But so what's cool about this is that this vision for the summit was started 7 years ago. In fact, it was in April 2010, on April the 23rd, I was actually at a traditional native healing circle, and I essentially, easiest way to say it is that God reached down from the heavens and gave me my life mission and vision and legacy, and part of that is to educate and inspire and impact millions and millions of people around the world about the plant and animal kingdom. And so I'm really passionate and have been using essential oils for quite some time, almost 10 years, personally and professionally in my fitness business. And then the animal piece comes into play where one of the presenters, Liz Reyes, who's known as the oily dog trainer, had said, hey, we really need to do something for the animals. And I'm like, well, cool, let's do that. And she's like, well, I really would like you to help because I don't know what I'm doing. And I wanted to say this because I'm really grateful for the opportunity just to be on the call with you tonight to ask you some questions, share more about your vision and your mission and what we're doing and how it's going to really help impact a lot more people and help work towards the millions and millions of people around the world, because to be very honest, I don't know as much as I would like to know about your work, but I just feel that the fact that we're on the call and the chat tonight, that there's a bigger reason and a purpose for it, and I have a strong feeling just from getting to know some of your work, by watching some of the videos and reading some of your material, that you're extremely passionate about what it is that you do. And even though I'm not an expert in animal wellness, I'm an expert in being able to bring people together that are experts. And so that's my position in the whole thing. And so with that being said, it's really exciting, because this is really, by the sounds of it, it's going to be your first online summit that you're a presenter in, but I have a feeling it's not going to be your last.
I think you're right. I think it's an amazing thing we can do with technology there. And the whole reason I kind of stopped seeing clients one-on-one a few years ago was because I realized that the conventional veterinary medical system is what's causing the illness in pets today. And it's often causing them in the name of prevention. So I realized probably, a decade ago, after doing this hard work of fixing these broken animals that conventional medicine couldn't even heal, that I wasn't going to make enough of an impact if I was just taking one animal on at a time, one client on at a time. Even if my day was full, that might only be 4 animals in a day or 5 animals in a day. And it was the system that needed changing. But I wasn't going to be able to change my colleagues because they were locked in. They were busy making money and invested in doing the same thing over and over again. And I realized that my audience is the pet owner who's got to learn a better way of prevention, a safer way, a sounder way. And really it comes down to a natural rearing way, the word that was coined probably 80 years ago or more by Juliet de Baracali-Levy, the great herbalist crone who only died in the last few years. So my life's work has really evolved from being first a conventional vet to, after 7 years of that, being a holistic vet, and finally a homeopathic vet, which is an amazing system of medicine, to now, after years of doing that, probably close to 30 years of being a homeopathic vet, realizing I've got to get out in front of this thing medicine is calling prevention and teach a better way. So that's what I'm up to now, is I'm teaching, and like you well know from being a summit expert, the scale is not limited physically anymore. So we can bring it to millions of people when we get connected. You know, I'm really thrilled that we're connecting tonight. In fact, I'd only heard about the summit recently, and didn't know, because I'm in the midst of my own course launch, how to be part of it, and I'm glad it really worked out. We made a nice connection.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I think it's interesting, because with me being as a holistic health practitioner, I'm also a fitness business owner, a personal trainer, and a lifestyle coach, and that's where I started my entrepreneurial journey. And so I work with clients still now privately, and I can say with great respect of the medical system, my mom's a registered nurse. It has been for 40 years, but I noticed a common trend over the last, I'm 34, so since I was a young kid, my mom was always a nurse, and she just kept continually getting more kind of frustrated, and just would come home feeling more challenged because there were so many changes. I mean, in Canada, the healthcare system here is so different than it is, of course, in the United States. But my point with bringing this up is because it's related to what you're referring to in the veterinarian space, is that it's not that there's not a place for it, it's just that it gets overused and abused, at least from my perspective. And so I'd love to hear you share a little bit more about some of the things that you see, maybe some more specifics about what are causing those, and how people that are watching us now live can put some of the stuff into practice. And before you answer, Dr. Will, if I can call you that, sure. If you guys have questions, you're here live, go ahead and type them in for the comments. I see them. If you have a question you'd like us to answer, I did have a couple that I'm going to pull up on my phone, and we can get them in here because you guys can ask your questions tonight live. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, Dr. Will, about what you've noticed is causing some of this?
Yeah. Over and over, it became apparent to me that the things done in the name of prevention and conventional medicine were the actual causes of all these animals who were ending up on my doorstep to be fixed. A lot of them would come to me after, I called myself the doctor of last resort. So I'm DVM, DLR. So they'd been through conventional vets who hadn't been able to fix their wild, crazy itching or their painful, stinky ears or their epilepsy or their whatever. And they'd spent thousands of dollars before deciding, this system isn't working to fix the broken animal. Let me try homeopathy. Here's a guy who does it and does it full time. That's his sole practice. So they would come to me, I would help them, and the stories would unravel. It's important for a homeopathic vet to know the history, as really any good doctor should. We need to hear what led up to this animal getting so broken. And the history would inevitably include, my vet always prompted me every year to come in for more vaccinations, saying they were necessary. I'd get a postcard, or as the years went on, I would get an email instead of a postcard. And they would say, Sadie is due for, this battery of vaccinations. And as the years went on, it became apparent that unless and until I treated what we call vaccinosis, which is a more than 100-year-old term from homeopathy, unless and until I treated that piece of their illness, I couldn't get them well. And the opposite of that was often that when I did choose a homeopathic remedy around illness from vaccines, which is what vaccinosis just simply means, their case would progress dramatically. And I mean, sometimes 80% of their symptoms would just go away. They would vanish. And then I would have an awakening that went, oh, I gave a vaccinosis remedy. There are several, but I gave a vaccinosis remedy, and I got an 80% improvement within 2 weeks in my patient who's been suffering for years. So on our next appointment with the client, I would say, you know what that tells us, right? If we got that much improvement from treating vaccine illness, it means that 80% of your dog's suffering, or your cat or your horse is suffering, was due to the vaccines. And that was corroborated with colleagues, homeopathic colleagues, who'd been at it for longer than I had and lesser times than I had. And we just learned, and as we'd have annual meetings, we'd say to each other, yeah, I've seen it, you've seen it. We need to treat vaccinosis or we're not going to get these guys well. So that became my number one reason that I was seeing so many animals so ill, was they were getting extremely over-vaccinated and with no sound logic. The more I plunged into it, the more I learned there was no science behind repeatedly vaccinating adult animals.
Right.
And the kinds of diseases we'd see were chronic in nature, meaning they weren't fixed in time and expected to last a week or two. They stretched out over years. And as the years went on and they got more and more medical treatment, life declined for these animals who were so afflicted. They weren't getting cured, and they were getting worse slowly but surely at great expense.
Right. Yeah, it's in my perspective, I find it interesting just because it's a big topic, whether it be animals and or humans, and there's difference of opinions from both sides of the fence. And I know that we chose not to vaccinate our children just because I believe the way that we've been created and designed is that we have the ability for our bodies to heal and be healthy as long as we have the raw materials to do so, and that some ailments or diseases are actually a gift sometimes to help strengthen the body, provided you can heal from it. And it's interesting because I think that the challenge that I can imagine is just the amount of friction, and I could use another term that's evading my brain right now, but like the amount of friction and challenges that you've experienced yourself in the position that you're in from your colleagues that are of the other side of the fence, we'll call it. How has that been? Has that been really challenging for you as you continue to kind of charge forward and share this information?
Well, it's interesting. The other side of the fence I often use, Barney, because I came from the other side of the fence. My first 7 years were all conventional practice. We were vaccinating, we were giving the drugs, we were, just doing all the conventional things we learned in my group practice when I joined out of vet school. And it was only after about 7 years of that that I just followed an intuition and didn't know where it was taking me and ended up on the holistic path, the natural path, as I call it. And
yeah,
the friction has been minimal in the sense that I don't entertain it. I'm not trying to change minds of veterinarians. It's impossible. There's several who've come over the fence with me, and they're the colleagues I rub shoulders with. They're the colleagues I talk to. We have meetings, etc. And the pet owners just get it. The pet owners are not not having a problem with what I've been teaching for 20 years now, because oftentimes they've come to me in desperation, or they tell their friends after I've gotten their animals better that, hey, there's this guy doing this homeopathic medicine, and he's taught me so much so that I don't need to see him anymore. My dog has gotten well, and my next generation has grown up in a whole different natural rearing mode, so they don't need to see him. And I'm tickled when I have people leave my practice because their animals are just shiny and healthy and what I call vital. So it's not that I'm up against friction on a regular basis, because I don't entertain it. I don't draw it in. I don't go head to head with conventional vets. I let them do their thing, and I'm trying to teach the pet owners a better way of doing things.
Yeah, which is cool, and I think that that's great, because you certainly don't want to continue to draw that in. And I think that it reminds me of a quote that, to the believer, no proof needed, and to the disbeliever, no proof possible. And for people that are interested and want to learn more, great. And if not, then you're not going to change your minds anyways, right?
That's exactly right. And I found that just by having that approach of positivity and come to me if this is your message, and I've kind of drawn a line in the sand. I've fairly radical in saying, I think we need an entirely different paradigm if we're going to raise healthy animals. And it's quite 180 degrees from what I learned in vet school, that you're either with me or you're not. So I haven't waffled, and I haven't tried to attract every animal owner on the planet. I've said, if this message resonates with you, come and read my stuff. I blog regularly. I teach courses. I get on Facebook Lives, throughout this whole workshop that I've just put up. And the people that are drawn to me, it's just obvious they're meant to be with me. And I regularly get their feedback that I've learned so much from you. Thank you. I don't need veterinary services now. My veterinary bills have dropped to almost nothing, and I have the healthiest animals I've ever had. So that's like, that inspires me no end, Barney. It just, it keeps me going and waking up and looking forward to the next day.
Yeah, well, that's pretty impressive, because in holistic health, on the teaching and training that I've received from a guy by the name of Paul Check. He is a holistic health practitioner. He's a pioneer, at least in the health and fitness space for humans. He's a pretty interesting individual, and he used to tell us his story all the time about how in the East, and I'm not sure if it was in China or Japan or in the Orient, basically, that doctors used to get paid as the towns. So if there's a shrine or a doctor that's in a given village or in an area, that they would get paid and compensated to the degree that the population or the community is healthy, not when and as they get sick. Exactly. And I think that's things have gotten changed, where it's more profitable when people aren't well. And it's unfortunate. I mean, when you have a situation you have to deal with, but when come from a place of empowerment, you know how to deal with it properly, then it's pretty cool. And I think that's what's really cool about what you're doing. And I think, you know, even though I want to learn, we have a little dog, Lucy, and I said to my wife as we go into getting ready for this launch later in November that I'm really excited because I want to learn. And I grew up on a farm and have an affinity for animals, and we just want to learn more. I mean, I was just brought up a certain way. This is how you feed cattle or horses, dogs and cats, and I want to learn just as much as the next person.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of working with animals is that they're entirely 100% innocent. They don't have any preconceptions about placebos, no placebo effect. If they get a remedy that works for them and it's a match for their symptoms, they get well. They just run for cure. And when you've missed the mark, homeopathy is all about matching disease and remedy in the patient. When you get that match wrong, they don't blink, they just keep being sick. And when they get it right, when you get it right, they just get well. And so it's like the thing that disproves the idea that homeopathy is so impossibly diluted that it couldn't possibly work. You hear that from especially the human side of the world. You know, it's impossible that homeopathy could possibly have an effect, and yet toddlers, infants, and animals don't know anything about a placebo effect. They either get well or they don't. And if they don't, you go back to the drawing board and try to figure out the next best remedy and wait till you find it and they get well.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And questions, I've just been looking over here and making sure that I don't neglect all the questions that have been coming in. I wanted to ask you, do you use, there was somebody just asking people have a hard time understanding oils or essential oils in animals. Do you have any experience with using them at all yourself or not so much?
I haven't really so much, Barney. I've heard good things about them from practitioners who use them. I've got some colleagues who use them. I've got some lay practitioners who like them. Recently heard about a student of mine, actually, who was one of my star students, who said she's gone into them and she's put together maybe 4 or 5 that help thunder phobia just like turn off. The dogs that hear the first rumble of thunder way off and they start panicking, or, you know, even before the family knows the storm is coming, those dogs are nervous. She said it just melts it. So I know they work. It's just not been my field of study.
Yeah, it hasn't been your experience. Yeah, so somebody, Tammy was just asking, that was a question from her. Well, I think you're gonna enjoy it just because I get the strong sense, I'm gonna make a presumption here that you're a student of learning and of lifelong learning, and I think that you'll really enjoy some of the practitioners, some of the presenters in this year's summit are going to be talking about oils and their experience, and it's pretty spectacular. So I'm interested to see how it all comes together.
Very cool.
So another one, lady, Keisha was saying that she lives in Texas and needs a year-round around heartworm preventative. So what would you suggest for something like that?
I live in Texas as well, and I have clients in Florida and students in Florida where the mosquitoes, they tell me, are as big as canaries, and heartworm lives all year round. And the people who've followed my work have learned a way to prevent it without any chemicals at all. And the chemicals are really actually quite dangerous. There's an association with autoimmune disease that comes from using them. And it doesn't look I can drop a link in here, but maybe in chat I can. But that's a URL for my protocol, which is completely drug-free, has had decades of use in endemic areas where heartworm lives. And these people just keep getting negative tests year after year after year. So I inform them in the ebook or the audio book, whichever way they choose, to be sure to test the results and go in and get a blood sample. That's all it is. It's not a procedure that hurts the dog, but check your work. And I keep getting laudatory emails saying, you know, we're on 8 years on your protocol now. They're still negative. Every spring we go in because you told us to and get a test. And we've been so happy. We're, you know, seeing healthier dogs as years go by and they're staying negative. So yeah, the trend in conventional medicine is more drugs more often, and I'm the opposite.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that that if you can empower any, we could say animal or human to let its body do what it's been created to do in the first place, I believe strongly that that's what we really need. And so you said you popped that link in there?
Yeah, it's in chat. And you can probably, if it doesn't show up, you can just copy it and pop it in.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
You can put it in.
And just a reminder about this Be Live platform. If you see a comment you want to have everybody see, there's a button to click on it, and it'll just pop up on the screen. That way everybody can know what we're talking about if you see a good one.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, good. So I'm going to do this just for fun.
Sure.
Can you see the question there now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then we just answered that question when you're watching the replay. And the next one here from Ramona. So it's the same question with flea and tick prevention. So
yeah,
what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, same idea. Let me give you a page on that. This is probably one of my most visited pages. That's an entirely free one. The Heartworm Protocol, I charge something for. It's an ebook, audiobook. But this has been a very popular page, and it's really all about using non-toxic things to help the environment be not conducive to flea reproduction. And there's a bunch of ways that you can do that. The focus in conventional medicine, of course, is poisoning the adult flea, which is a very short-term approach. The poisons are just that. They're actually all in the class of neurotoxins. So they paralyze the flea. One of the delivery systems now scares the bejeebers out of me. It's called Brevecto. It's a pill that you are supposed to feed your dog. A lot of dogs spit it out because they sense that it's a poison, but they maybe wrap it in cheese or bacon or something and get the dog to eat it. And the brag by the company who makes it is that it starts killing fleas within 2 hours, Barney, and it continues to kill them for 12 weeks with one pill. And I blogged about this. It's called Brevecto. I blogged about this and I said, think through this with me now. Your dog is taking a pill. It's getting out to the flea and killing the flea. So what's the vehicle for the dog to get the stuff out to the flea? It's your dog's bloodstream. Right. So, that's a complete opposite direction I will counsel people out of. And this flea control page called Non-Toxic Flea Control has a lot of good strategies to work in a completely safe way and a very effective one. You just have to be a little more patient. It's not going to kill fleas in 2 hours because it's not poison based. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge for some people, maybe not people that are watching the call or listening live, but just that there's that instant gratification where it's a common response in society where we just want to get it now. We want to have the pleasure now. We want to get rid of the pain now. And that doesn't, there's a cost to that, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
That's our society. And we're the same way mistakenly seeing the symptoms as the disease, whereas the symptoms are way up here on the surface and the disease is much deeper than that. So we want those symptoms to go away as a society. We want those symptoms to go away today. I don't want my dog to be itching. I don't want him to have sores on his body. So if I go into the conventional vet, I call him Dr. Whitecoat, and he gives me a shot or gives my dog a shot, that'll turn off today. And I won't be embarrassed. My neighbors won't think I'm a loser. My dog will stop itching and all will be well. Well, nothing could be further than the truth. Trina says she's not seeing the link, so it means it's got to get pasted into the center stream, I think, of the comments. And you have to scroll way up. Okay. If you haven't, if you've copied the link, you have to scroll way up to get to the bottom where the new comments go in and just paste it in there. It'll pop up. It's a little bit of a funny system. But yeah, that's societal. It's a misunderstanding. We, like you say, we want pleasure now. We want pain to go away now, and no real healing takes place by doing those things. We're seeing clearly over more than 100 years that there's suppression happening. We suppress the symptoms. The dog not only doesn't get better, but gradually gets worse, or the horse or the cat or whatever the symptom. So yeah, we've just got to shift our thinking. That's part of shifting the paradigm of saying, like you've been preaching, we've got to get to a deeper, more natural level. We've got to respect nature, who is inherent in every living being, support her work, who's trying to get us well, trying to keep us well. And when we do that, it may take a little more time, but the benefits are huge and the risk just drops right out of the picture.
Yeah, and I can agree from the perspective that as I hear you talk, I really could think that you could be referring to humans the same way as it is animals. It's really the same. Within reason, our bodies function relatively the same.
Absolutely. We're all mammals, you know, us and dogs and cats and horses, we're all mammals. So we have great similarities. There's some key differences, but effectively we all have this innate intelligence within us. The homeopaths like to call it the vital force. It's that part of us that, without us thinking about it, extracts oxygen from the air, digests our food, eliminates the waste. If we get a cut, it heals the cut. If we wear out a liver cell, it replaces the liver cell with a new liver cell. There's not a kidney cell ending up in the liver. You know, that's all happening behind the scenes. So we're supporting that with this approach. I just, borrowing the term from 100 years ago or 80 years ago, I call it natural rearing. We're raising kids, or we're raising puppies, or we're raising any species naturally, respecting Mother Nature's laws, and the outcome is outstanding. I mean, I call the animals who go through this teaching, the natural rearing course that I'm offering now, when they come out, I call them my vital animal ambassadors, because they're literally magnetic. It's just like they draw people to them who can't resist to ooh and ah and dig their fingers into their fur and say, how did you get this dog so shiny, or this cat so soft, or this horse so amazingly, you know, he's reflecting light off his coat. Look at this. So that's the reward.
I get that all the time. People say that about, like, how did you get your hair so wonderful? You like walk in the room and the sun just shines off my hair. People are like, wow. No, that's good. That's really good. I want to keep rolling here, Dr. Will, so we're not going to go overtime tonight. But there's another question, if that's cool, and I appreciate you sharing on that.
Sure.
This one here from Melissa, I'm just going to pop it up on the screen as I work on my professional BeLive TV skills here. So could you answer this one for us? How do you deal with that when it comes to traveling with your pets?
Yeah, so unless you're crossing a international border, Melissa, most times there's not an issue with travel. Most of my students have learned their way around grooming, to either do it themselves or have a groomer come over to them, or they've gotten a letter from a sympathetic holistic vet who says, this animal's already got a history of vaccines from way back when, and immunology, veterinary immunology, tells us that immunity is likely still present and probably will be for life. That's coming from not holistic thought, that's coming from the scientists in the lab in immunology. So I'll write letters for my clients and sometimes for my students, but most of my students just kind of get this and they go, I'm going to drop out of that system that would say, I've got to keep vaccinating. And I teach them how to do it. Depending on where you live, you may or may not have a rabies law, quote unquote law. It's what's called a very soft law. It was law that was promulgated by greed and not science, that says you have to repeat that one every so often. Some states in the US say yearly, some say every 3 years. No science whatsoever behind it, pure greed. So in this natural rearing roadmap course, I teach people strategies that others have used to get around that law, because it's not protecting the populace like they would have you believe. It's a great risk to your animal every time you do that. So we train people on how to get around it. It's not that hard, and that's the only one that has a law about it. A lot of people think when I get a postcard that says he's due for distemper and parvo and parainfluenza and hepatitis and this and that, that there maybe is some regulation around that. There is none. You are not compelled by anybody other than the vet who would like you to spend the money on it to do that. There's no law around it.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good to know. I didn't know that, and that's just really good. So then, if you know that, I think that's where a lot of when you look at, I think as we've been talking about some of the stuff that people are wanting to learn and just not knowing, it's not that the intention or the interest is there. It's just not. It just really comes from a lack of knowledge, and it sounds to me like that's what you teach through your blogs, through your Facebook lives, through the courses you have, and all of that. And I think that that's what's pretty amazing for people to look at.
It really is. And I think in the video workshop that's up there now, going to only be up for another day or so, I think in video number 4, which is the kind of crown of the workshop, about a fork in the road. Might be a number 3, but anyway, a fork in the road where you either continue to follow the paradigm that others would place on you and you're compliant. That's something conventional veterinarians speak of all the time, especially in their advertising from the drug companies. It says, we want compliance. We want to sell these things and we want everyone to comply and take what we're selling. And the other fork, the one less traveled, is the one of empowerment. And I want to steer as many people who are willing to learn that over to the path of empowerment, where you now you have learned enough, you've got a knowledge base enough that your confidence grows that you can make the call for what you partake in veterinary medicine and what you don't. And that's a huge shift. And the feedback I get from students who've been through this course and others will tell me time and again, you have given me the power and the knowledge to make sound decisions, and my animals and I have never looked back. So that's my goal for all this teaching that I'm doing, is just to get everybody a knowledge base that they can stand firmly on and make these sound decisions about how to naturally rear your animals. It's entirely doable. You don't have to be a doctor to do it.
Right. Which, when you think about it, I mean, years and years and years ago, I mean, I don't know how many years that is, but that's years and years and years ago, there wasn't a lot of this, kind of the knowledge and the information available. People just kind of did it, and now that we have more advanced knowledge in the healthcare system, it's really taken a step back and getting back to the basics. I see that in my fitness business. I see that in holistic lifestyle coaching, just to really simplify, to clear up the clutter and the mess and just take the power back, right?
Yeah, and it's like, I think we have a place for Western medicine, and it's only really one place. Conventional medicine is really good at putting your body back together if you've been in a car wreck. You've lost a limb. Yeah. You want to have that happen in the first world. You don't want that to happen, in China or India or something where they're less advanced. You want that to happen, if it has to happen, if that's your karma, you want that to happen in Canada or the US or England or somewhere that's, ready to put you back together. What they don't have answers for, and what the #1 type of disease is in the world right now, is chronic disease. It's the opposite of getting in a car wreck. It's those diseases that stretch out for years and for life if you don't get them turned around and cured. So great if we've got that at our beck and call and we end up in some catastrophe where we've got to be kind of, stitched back together, but not a medicine I would recommend consuming if you've got something that's lingering and chronic, which is what most of the animals suffer along with, just like the humans do.
Right.
The statistic that I often throw out it's of interest probably to anybody who's got animals is the #1 reason dogs are taken to vets, we've got data on it for more than a decade, is allergies. And allergies in the dog is not sniffly nose or sneezing, it's itchy skin or horribly itchy inflamed ears And these are the animals who keep the family up at night, who end up costing them thousands of dollars before they end up at a homeopathic vet's door, who have their own life being in misery, and the people around them who are caring for them just, you know, brokenhearted and going broke, because these chronic diseases are never cured by what conventional medicine has. So that's what I'm trying to get people steered out of by starting prevention. The course I'm launching that ends tomorrow night is actually teaching people to start from even preconception by choosing breeders who get this stuff. And we've got a whole list of breeders we've vetted who are really doing it right, treating their breeding animals so they're super healthy, and then the offspring come in super healthy, and leading them up through their first year of life, where if you make the wrong decisions, your animal ends up in the statistic world. And if you make the right decisions, they rarely need to see a vet. They glow, they shine, they have vigor, they have balance in their behavior. You know, everything goes right versus a big chance of things going wildly wrong. So let me just drop a link in about that, that you can share if people are interested in seeing that last video and learning more about how they might get that for themselves. Probably takes a copy and a paste into your comments to have people have access to it. But that's what I'm up to.
Yeah.
Is the show on?
I'm not seeing it. The other ones, I think we're gonna have to put them in after, Dr. Will. I didn't see actually.
That's fine. I can send them.
We can pop it after. Yeah, for sure.
Sure. It's just that there's kind of a limited window right now, and if people want to join me, I won't be launching this course again until sometime in 2018, and it goes away tomorrow at midnight. So yeah, just so they know.
Okay. Well, we'll let them know, because I've had a couple people were asking, and now the last couple questions here, if you're cool with that, and then let's wrap it up, because we don't want to take up too much of your time. Really appreciate it, because I know people are commenting, they're really appreciative. The question you had mentioned about, I was trying to find it with, you said about itchy skin. Or, of course, I can't find it.
Yeah, the questions are piling in, aren't they?
Yeah, this other one here. Well, this other one, which was, oh my goodness, this is totally embarrassing doing this live.
No, that's okay.
What can be done for an over-vaccinated pet?
Great question, Janice. Great question. So there's not real simple answers, but the best I've got is I've got another link that Barney can post later that has a list of vetted. Let's see if I can remember the shortcut. Facebook group. Yeah. We've got a Facebook group going during this workshop that's about to finish, but you can still join it. We've got a vetted list of homeopathic vets who are in two categories, and I weeded everybody else out because unfortunately there's not enough of us to go around. So we're not in every village and township and city, even of good size. But on this list, I put colleagues who are doing two things. First, their practice is 100% homeopathy or almost all, because that means they've committed to it, they've learned it, they're in the trenches of practice every day curing seriously ill animals. And the second is they'll consult with you by telephone. So that's my highest recommendation for you, Janice, is get with a homeopathic vet who fits into these two categories. And they all come from a list I've made that's free to you. You can download it on the Facebook group that Barney will post for you when we're done. That's the best way to get over an over-vaccinated sickness due to vaccines. I wish there were a simple one-size-fits-all. There's not. In homeopathy, there's not.
Okay. No, that's really good. And I mean, there's, I think that's the best. I think that was a great answer, because really at this point, what's been done is done, and just got to take the next best steps forward.
Exactly.
So the next question here, we've got time for about 2 or 3 more. and then we can like you to tell everybody just a little bit about the course you've been referring to, because I don't know as much about it as I would like to.
Sure.
But this next question by Jennifer is, what's your opinion on following a raw diet, especially with the prey model?
I love it, Jennifer. I see animals who, if they do nothing else, but they get on a diet that's closer to prey, they improve dramatically, and they'll see changes within 2 weeks, sometimes sooner. They'll see their animal brighten up. They'll see the coat start to take on a luster. They'll see brittleness in the hairs just disappear, and they become soft. And the longer they're on it, the healthier they get. And one of the early indicators to me in practice years ago, 25 years ago, was that the animals who chose, or the owners who chose that kind of a diet for their animals, rarely needed to see me as a homeopathic vet. They just got really well. So that's a great early answer, especially if you've got these allergies. That's the #1 reason dogs are seeing vets, is switch them up, get them off the kibble, get them onto something closer to prey, because genetically speaking, there's a 99% overlap between wolf genes and dog genes. That's their ancestry. And of course, we don't see wolves carrying a bag of kibble around in the forest, nor do we see them lining up their pups for vaccines every year. So the more we feed them like the wolf, the healthier they are.
Yeah, that's great. Really good. I think, I think we had scheduled about an hour for our call, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, this is really good. I think that I had 2 messages on my phone, people saying they didn't comment back here, they had to jump off, but thank you so much. It's been really awesome. So the next one is the prey one, is for diatomaceous earth for flea control. Have you used that, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Sherry, I get a lot of questions about it, and I've been an organic gardener in my past years. I haven't done it for years, but I used it a lot in the garden, and I think a lot of it. I'm not so high on it for flea control for dogs, mainly because I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's suited for indoor use, which is where fleas usually reproduce. It makes a mess of your house, and people put it on their dog's coat, and these are little tiny diatoms, so they're kind of scratchy. And a dog who's already itchy, perhaps from allergies, I don't want to add anything to their coat that would make them scratch, nor do I want to see the house just full of diatomaceous earth. So in my non-toxic flea control page, you won't see, I don't think I've even mentioned DE. Great respect for it outdoors, great respect for it in the garden. I think it's a super safe thing, but putting it on your dog's coat, I don't like it. And I think dusting your house with it where it might stop the reproduction of fleas is really not practical. It's a super fine dust and it just gets everywhere.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's the answer to that, short and sweet. So this one is a fairly long one, but I feel like you already kind of answered, but I'll just pop this up anyways. So when a person takes your dog in to be groomed, how would you answer when you're asked if they've had flea or tick prevention preventative prior to being brought in for grooming? Whoops. And because there's certain requirements. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, Angela, great question. And my students are smart about this. So the answer is yes, of course we have. We don't, we're not careless with our dog. You can see how healthy she looks, right? Look at her coat, look at her teeth, they're white, they gleam. The animals who have this natural rearing care are so healthy they don't even attract fleas. I've got a client on a video who was a student of mine in the Natural Rearing Roadmap last year. We've done a couple of we did a Facebook Live last night, and she speaks about this. She said, I saw a dog on my naturally reared Ridgeback once, and I just watched to see what would happen, because we haven't used chemicals. We've been raw feeding, for over a year. We stopped all the vaccines. We stopped all the flea poisons. We stopped the heartworm poisons because of what you taught us. And she said, I just watched to see what this flea would do. She said the flea hopped off. Rather than going to feed on this dog's blood, the flea said, I don't have a home here. So if you're doing these things, if you're doing these things and your dog is so healthy that he doesn't attract or she doesn't attract fleas, you can answer with entire honesty that yes, we're doing flea control. And in your mind, you're saying of the highest order. Same with the vaccines. If you've got that's more commonly the question that's asked is your dog up to date on vaccines? And if you had an animal who was vaccinated any time over the age of 4 months, you can answer honestly, yes, my dog is up to date on vaccines. And you can say that for the next 20 years. Why? Because veterinary immunologists tell us that's the way it works. Remember when you got a smallpox shot on your upper arm? Nobody sent you a postcard saying, come on in, you're due for your next smallpox, right? We tend to forget that. Smallpox is a virus, distemper is a virus, rabies is a virus. What the immunologists tell us, and they told us this in mainstream textbooks 25 years ago, 25 years ago, 1992, this came out. In Current Veterinary Therapy, a great big book that comes out in new edition every 4 years. What they said in there was the practice of annual revaccination is lacking in scientific merit. There is no immunological reason to repeat vaccinations in an already vaccinated animal. And they went on to say it's unlikely to add anything to the existing immunity that they got from when they were young. So in our opinion, they go on to say, this practice is useless. I'll paraphrase there, but the practice is useless. And they don't mention this part, which I see all the time. It's also risky. It's damaging, potentially damaging. So you can be very honest and say, yes, we're up to date on shots. Yes, we do flea control before we came in because you've been doing it for a year or 6 months or whenever you got started feeding raw and staying away from poisons and stopping vaccines. Very honestly, you can answer yes to those questions.
Yeah, that's good. And now there's just like when you're for chicken pox when you're younger, and once you get it, you're good. Supposedly you're good for life, right?
Yep. And so many of my patients have that history. You know, the ones who are joining me on the natural rearing course are starting out with no vaccines, and we're building their immunity from, you know, preconception onwards. So like your kids and my kids, they don't necessarily need any. So that's another common question I get. Are there some that we absolutely have to get? No, I'm teaching people how to do without them entirely if they choose to. And I help kind of coach them through evaluate the risk and evaluate the benefits, and let's help you decide. That's what my students get, and they're getting smart about it. They're helping to teach others. So yeah, it's very doable.
That's cool. Okay, so last 3 questions, and we'll wrap things up because I want you to tell everybody about your courses. I'm getting questions here and I can't answer them effectively. Is this one from Angie? I think this is a really good question. Is what's a good amount of time to give a natural method before deciding it doesn't work and moving on and trying something else?
So Angie, I'm going to assume you're talking about treatments for disease as opposed to naturally rearing somebody. Let's just take them both, for instance. If we're just starting out on natural rearing and saying, I want to see the outcome of this, I'm going to switch to raw food. I'm going to stop vaccinating when I get the postcards, and I'm going to get off the poisons that poison fleas and ticks and heartworms. You'll see that that's working easily within a month. You'll often see it at 2 weeks, and it just keeps on getting better and better. If you're talking about treating disease, we can be more objective, right? Because we've got all these symptoms of disease. This is how my animal is not normal. XYZ, 1 through 10, my animal showing symptoms. If you're working with a holistic practitioner of some sort, you should see some progress depending on how long your animal's been ill. you should see some progress in the first couple of months. If you're seeing nothing, I would start searching again for somebody else. So one of the reasons I handpicked these veterinarians who are homeopathic veterinarians who do mostly or only homeopathy and who consult by telephone. You're not limited to somebody who's near you, in other words. And if you're not getting results within 2 months or 3 or maybe 4, it's time to start searching again for a different practitioner. Let me give one framework around this, though, which we've known from, probably almost 200 years in homeopathy, is that the amount of time someone has been chronically ill, we can take that in half and say that's the amount of time it's going to take to get them to cure. So if your dog's been itching for 5 years, tormenting herself and you, and the dog's coat is a mess, it's likely to take a couple of years of solid working together with a trained homeopath to get that disease cured. But it's not to say that you won't see improvement along the way. It's not like it's horrible, 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 and then the switch goes off and now you've got well. It's a gradual and steady improvement until you say, we don't have any symptoms left, and this dog is telling me he's well and he's cured and he's not needing help. So the homeopath, who's a straight up homeopath, will tell you at that point, you don't need to see me. You keep going, doing what you're doing, supporting this dog's inner intelligence, innate intelligence, vital force, whatever you want to call it. Do all these right natural rearing decisions repeatedly, and you'll stay well. You don't need my services if, for some reason, until that dog starts to get sick again or that cat starts to get sick again.
Yeah. So that's good, because then that way people, so if you're listening and watching this and thinking, okay, great, this is amazing, but I'm not close to somebody, or I don't think I'm close to somebody, or I checked it out and I'm not, then you can at least call and get some insight from that list, which, by the way, if you're watching live, I know the question's been asked several times, where are the links? We will post them. So what I'd love for you to do, Dr. Will, I'm sorry, were you finished answering that question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I know that there's more questions than we had time to get to tonight. I appreciate your insight and sharing everything that you did already tonight. I learned a lot myself. I know one lady, Jennifer, I just wanted to post this real quick, just said, thank you. I'm on month 4 of the pre-model diet, and your boxers, and the changes have been amazing. No more allergies. So I think that's neat. Now, to be honest, if you're watching this thinking, well, I want to learn more, I personally do. I'm just curious, if you're still watching live, do me a huge favor. If you're interested in learning from Dr. Will, you're going to be able to learn from him on the summit. But right now, just because of the timing, he literally just came on board. The reason he didn't earlier was because he was doing his launch for his course, which he won't be doing this again until 2018. So what I'd love for you to do is, if you are interested and anything resonated with you tonight that Dr. Will shared with you, just type in yes in the comment box or the chat box, and we can send you the details on this. We're going to be posting the link. This is going to go to an email on our Facebook page on the Animal Wellness Summit. And for those of you who have already pre-registered, you're going to get some details on it. But if you're interested, just go ahead and type yes. I'm interested, just so we can send you some details, because you still have the videos that are up there that people have access to watch more of your, like, the 4-part course or the series, correct?
Yeah, and they'll be up for a short time longer. We started them about 10 days ago, and there are 4 of them all together. What I'll give people is kind of the culmination link. That's the 4th video, which kind of tells the whole story, brings it all together. But do consume those, rather quickly. I think they're probably not downloadable, but you are welcome, and it's free to watch them all.
Yeah, and how long are they? Like, if somebody's thinking, okay, well, I want to go, we're going to get this.
Yeah, they're about 15 to 20 minutes each. A lot of good free information, things put to work right away.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to go and post this so you can see this after. So Joanne, hello, Joanne from Alberta. I'm just going to show you this, Dr. Will. I don't know if you saw this, but Ramona said she was definitely interested. I'm just going to do a couple. Joanne from Alberta. I'm just going to pick on her because I know her. Mary Jones, Janice had some great questions. Georgia, I apologize, didn't get to your question in time. Lisa and Wendy, and that was the first 10 or 15. There's about another 15 up here, or 10. So basically, what's really cool with this, guys, is that this doesn't cost anything. Dr. Will and I could have thought nothing more to do than to get on tonight's call with you. I will be honest, I can hear my kids crying for daddy to come over and give him a kiss goodnight, because we just had our third baby girl last week. And my wife, today was her first day on her own with all 3 girls. And so I have 30 minutes before I have to go to another call. And I just want to say thank you for joining us live and making the time to be with us. But then also if you're listening to the recording as well. And last but not least, Dr. Will, thank you for taking the time to share with us your wisdom and giving us a bit of a sneak peek for those that are interested in taking part in your course, because I think it's really amazing and I look forward to digging in myself. And as well for the summit, I know there's a lot of people are going to be extremely interested in hearing your presentation, and we're going to be doing more interviews with the presenters as we lead up to the summit, and we're really excited about it. So any final closing words of wisdom, Dr. Will? And I actually want to post this. Kelly was just, you see, this is the thing, we can't make this stuff up. And Kelly, I'm presuming Kelly's one of your students or has followed some of your stuff. Yeah, that's pretty awesome to read that.
Thank you, Kelly. That's sweet. Yeah, the takeaway, I think, is really that if I do my job right as a teacher, as an educator, I empower you to take control of your animal's health. I want nothing more than that, because the conventional medical system is really broken. The more you partake in it, the more likely your animal is going to come down with chronic disease. Chronic diseases are the plague of our day for humans and animals alike. Nothing in conventional medicine can cure them. That's a real important point. They cannot be cured by anything in conventional medicine. You've got to pursue other avenues. And if you can get in front of the things that are called prevention in conventional medicine and stop partaking of them, but instead substitute things like natural rearing, which I'm teaching in this course, your animals and you will never look back, and you'll wonder why you spent so much time partaking in conventional medicine at all, because you won't need it. And your risk will drop off and your expenses will drop off, and my ultimate goal is to have people so confident and so empowered that they own their animal's health. It's like it's in their bones. They own it. They can decide correctly on how to do it. And my goal is not to say, do what I say. My goal is to have everybody learn so they're acting from their own base of understanding. That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I love it, because it's the same philosophy that I teach in health for my clients, just working with humans more than I am animals.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Will. Thank you so much, everybody tuning in live. And if you're watching this as a recording, then I hope that you felt special and feel special, because not only are you just in general, but because you were on Barney Kinsey's first Be Live TV interview, and with one of our presenters for the summit. So we're actually doing 2 summits. One for Young Living is coming up in October, and the second one for the Animal Wellness Summit is coming up in November. So we look forward to listening to your details, Dr. Will. Thank you. Appreciate it. And have a great night, great day, great rest of your morning, or wherever you're at. And we'll talk to you guys in the future.
All right. Thanks so much for having me, Barney. It was a pure joy.
Sounds great. Thanks, Dr. Will.
There you go.